Hey there everyone, it's me, KGrove94, back for another video. Now, throughout my life, I have been introduced to many animated movies that have left quite the impact on me, both for better and for worse. On a regular basis, it's usually the movies made by Disney that tend to leave the biggest mark on my life. But of all the Disney movies released throughout the years, the one that I would regard as the most important one I've seen would have to be the 1994 animated classic, The Lion King. For those of you who know me on DeviantArt, Facebook, Twitter, or know me outside the internet, you're likely to know at this point that I am a huge Lion King fanatic. It's a movie that has always made me happy one way or another, always wows me with its story and characters, and is just all around an awe-inspiring experience that I will continue to admire as the years go on. But why is that exactly? What is it about this movie with talking animals from Africa that makes me keep coming back, no matter how many times I've seen it? To answer these questions, I'm going into detail over why these are the cases, as well as how much of an impact this movie has had on my life. Released in the middle of 1994, The Lion King tells the story of Simba, a young lion born into the royal family of the Pride Lands, an African kingdom ruled by King Mufasa and Queen Sarabi. Destined to rule the kingdom when he grows up, Simba at first thinks his life will be nothing but blessings, but he soon finds himself going through a lot of obstacles that truly put this assumption to the test, the biggest of which being his ruthless uncle Scar. After Scar kills Mufasa with the help of some malicious and hunger-driven hyenas who orchestrate a wildebeest stampede to assure Scar's plan works, Scar misleads Simba into thinking that he is the one responsible for his father's demise and urges him to run away. Fleeing his home in guilt, he eventually gets taken in by comical duo Timon and Pumbaa, where he lives under their Hakuna Matata, or no worries, lifestyle. However, once he reaches adulthood, and upon reuniting with faces from his childhood, he must ultimately confront his past and foes in order to take his place in the circle of life and honor his father and family. From analyzing the story, it's easy to tell that this is a blend of hero's journey and coming of age, where our main protagonist goes through some tough challenges, all while going through an internal conflict within himself before achieving his ultimate goal in the end. For this kind of story to work, it must have elements that work seamlessly together in order to achieve the success that it would get upon its initial release. The story itself is powerful, but even if it was the only thing worth getting out of this film, the movie itself wouldn't have worked. Luckily, there were other elements put into the film that really helped make this movie shine, through beautiful animation crafted by Disney's talented animators, memorable characters that help bring out the emotion the story's trying to sell, and a stellar soundtrack put together through the efforts of songwriter Elton John, lyricist Tim Rice, composer Hans Zimmer, and African vocalist Lebo M. All of these elements combined helped make this a high-quality film, and that has benefited the movie in the long run. The characters come off as engaging, easy to identify, are in some cases relatable, are given excellent performances by their actors, be it Matthew Broderick, James Earl Jones, Nathan Lane, Rowan Atkinson, Jeremy Irons, etc., and their actions help move the plot forward in more ways than one. More often than not, some add some much-needed lighthearted comedy as well, especially since this story does not pull any punches in telling a hardcore story. Themes like betrayal, the death of a loved one, and accepting responsibilities are some tough themes to incorporate into a Disney animated film, and they are made manifest in numerous scenes throughout the movie. Two of the biggest examples being the death of Mufasa at the paws of Scar, and when Mufasa comes back to Simba as a ghost. For the former, seeing the thundering herd of wildebeest charge through the gorge, putting Simba's safety into question, and seeing Mufasa bravely dive into the herd to save his son, only to struggle to climb the canyon wall to save himself, helps make for one of the most intense scenes in animation history. And it only goes further when Scar throws Mufasa back into the gorge after uttering the chilling words, "Long live the king." Now for the latter, seeing Mufasa temporarily return as a ghost to his uncertain son to remind him of his place in the circle of life, and telling him to remember who he is, helps make for one of the most powerful moments in the film, and it helps serve as a metaphor for remembering a deceased loved one, therefore making it seem like he or she is living on spiritually. Having already said goodbye to some loved ones whom I've had strong relationships with in the past, This part of the film has helped me get through those troubling times, and also further helped Simba become a much more relatable character than I originally thought. But he's not the only character I find comfort from in this sense. Rafiki, the wise shaman mandrill of the Pride Lands, is also a character I give a lot of credit to, since many of his lines throughout this sequence have helped me through these troubling times as well. While often portrayed as eccentric, wacky, and as some friends of mine have said at times, a cuckoo in the bananas, Rafiki is also very wise, and during the scenes where he's talking to Simba before he decides to go back home, he provides some words of wisdom that not only help Simba get back on his feet, but have also helped me in times of hardship, like the already mentioned times I've had to say goodbye to loved ones. In fact, because of his timeless wisdom that continues to impact me to this day, I proudly consider Rafiki not only my favorite character in the film, but also my favorite Disney character of all time. Other characters in this movie like Timon, Pumbaa, and Zazu also come off as influential characters, with Pumbaa and Zazu also being characters I can relate to, but no one in this movie has left the biggest impact on me like Rafiki. However, while the characters are worth the praise, I'm not going to pretend that this movie is flawless. One thing about the film that I've also been inspired by is the message regarding the circle of life. Mufasa at one point tells Simba that as king, he must respect the delicate balance that every living thing exists in, be it the ant, the antelope, or whatever else is out there, since, as he said it best, we are all connected in the great circle of life. That is a message that I've held onto as I've grown older, but that also leaves a bit of a problem with the story, mainly in regards to the hyenas. The flaw I'm referring to does not target Shenzi, Banzai, and Ed specifically. If anything, those three are also wonderful characters whom I've grown to really enjoy too. It's just the way in which all the hyenas in general are portrayed that's problematic for me. Each hyena is presented as an antagonizing force that helps Scar in claiming the Pride Lands for his selfish purposes, in return for having an endless supply of food. To the other lions, the hyenas are bad news, and as we see in moments with the Pride Lands under Scar's reign, the land goes from beautiful and lush to barren and destroyed. In the hyenas' defense though, the reason why the latter happens is mainly because of Scar's incompetence as king and power-hungry selfishness, where he abolishes every one of Mufasa's laws, even the ones regarding the hunting parties, therefore throwing the circle of life out of balance, and even making the hyenas get frustrated with their boss. However, that doesn't excuse how they still remain a villainous force against the heroes. It's still understandable to some degree, since in nature, lions and hyenas are rivals when it comes to competition for food, and too many predators in one ecosystem would spell trouble. But it still would have been nice if some hyenas were actually portrayed as good guys. Like, maybe some do help Scar become King of Pride Rock, but later on they reform and help the heroes take back the kingdom in Simba's name. Fortunately for Disney, they remedied this flaw in 2016's Disney Junior series The Lion Guard, where in the first episode of the show, we're introduced to Jasiri, a good hyena who befriends main protagonist Kion, and explains that most hyenas respect the circle of life and having their own purpose to help out with, which I thought was a smart move. Now, despite this flaw with regards to the hyenas, it does not take away the overall joy that I have from watching this film, especially since every film, even the most famous and influential ones, have some flaws in some form or fashion. And when the Circle of Life message works, it does so in a way that feels absolutely powerful and epic. Nowhere is this made manifest the most than in the movie's opening sequence, where the kingdom's animals come to Pride Rock to pay tribute to Simba, all while the beautiful Circle of Life song plays in the background. This is one of the movie's crowning achievements, and in my opinion, one of, if not the best, opening sequences in film history. That moment when the sun appears over the horizon with Lebo M delivering that beautiful African chant, oh my god, that instantly tells you you're in for something special, and different from what you're probably used to from Disney movies beforehand. What follows is beautiful animation of animals traveling great distances while the song slowly starts to build and build, with Carmen Twiley singing the song in her gorgeous voice, before the song suddenly roars to life in a big orchestral way once Pride Rock is revealed for the first time. We get to meet only a handful of the characters we'll be following, like Mufasa, Rafiki, Sarabi, and baby Simba, before we get the iconic shot of Rafiki holding Simba high into the sky, for all below to gaze upon and cheer for. All of this put together has made this one of my favorite parts of the film that always makes me feel better if I'm sad. And as a youngster, listening to this song while watching the intro to this film, it really helped bring me into this world and digest everything this movie was telling. And it also helped establish the Circle of Life song as my favorite song in the whole world. It's fantastic, I love it, and I most definitely recommend it if you haven't heard it yet. You won't be disappointed. The movie has other powerful moments that make it as big as it is, like the already mentioned wildebeest stampede which leads to Mufasa's tragic end, and Mufasa's ghost coming before Simba to remind him who he is. But there's also the finale of the film, where our heroes come together and fend off Scar and his evil force in a fight that's really intense, but grand and awesome at the same time. I mean, we get all of the heroes involved in this clash. Even the comic reliefs like Timon and Pumbaa get to show off their stuff in badass ways. Ultimately, the fight reaches its climax when Simba and Scar duke it out on top of Pride Rock in slow motion as the fire rages on in the background, with Hans Zimmer's big score implying that this is the fight that will determine the fate of the kingdom, before Scar is eventually thrown off the battlefield, where he is ripped to shreds by the vengeful hyenas, whom Scar tried to sell out to Simba in an attempt to save his own selfish skin. And when all that's said and done, we get the majestic scene in which Simba climbs Pride Rock and lets out the triumphant roar that establishes him as the new ruler of the Pride Lands, at last fulfilling his true goal, before we finally end on Simba and Nala's newborn cub being presented to the animals in a similar fashion to the intro. Every time I watch this ending, I always find satisfaction in numerous ways. Seeing Simba climb up Pride Rock, with the rain pouring down from above, as if it's metaphorically washing away the troubled times he felt during his time of exile, before he hears his father's voice from the heavens and gaining the confidence to let out that beautiful roar, is simply breathtaking. And then later on, once we see him standing on Pride Rock with Nala, Timon, and Pumbaa by his side, with the animals cheering for them down below, it really gives the impression that Simba will make his father proud and do a great job as king, with his family and friends by his side to help him out. Once again, Hans Zimmer's majestic score helps sell the satisfaction of this climax and brings forth the end where the hero has overcome all odds to earn his happy ending. An ending in which I regard as my favorite Disney movie finale of all. The Lion King was a massive success when it came out, gaining critical and audience acclaim and becoming the highest-grossing Disney film of its time. Even with the arrival of animated films which went on to outgross it financially, The Lion King is still the highest-grossing hand-drawn animated film of all, as well as a popular favorite among Disney fans. Its success eventually led to the creation of multiple spin-offs like TV cartoons and books, 2 direct-to-video sequels, and even having some characters appear in other cartoons and games, like House of Mouse and Kingdom Hearts. Probably the biggest impact this movie had was the creation of a Broadway show based off the movie, which is among the most successful theater productions in the world. I've already seen this show a few times with family and friends, and every time I've seen it, it's been a wonderful experience. Sure, the movie may have some issues, but it's normal for anything, to have flaws. And like I said before, it doesn't take away the fun I have from watching this thing. It's not just my favorite Disney animated film of all time, it's also my favorite film ever. Other films share the spotlight as being among my all-time faves, like Beauty and the Beast, Jurassic Park, and Star Wars, but The Lion King takes the crown for what it has to offer. With its powerful story, memorable characters, soundtrack that's majestic, as well as catchy and intense, and beautifully crafted animation, this movie I would say is a massive accomplishment in movie-making history. It's definitely helped me get through some tough times in the past, and has been a never-ending source of inspiration throughout my life. And for that, all who've helped put this movie together, from directors, producers, music composers, songwriters, animators, voice actors, everyone who helped with this film, they all have my eternal thanks and gratitude. With that, I'd give The Lion King a well-deserved A+. I should also bring up that one other big reason why I'm obligated to talk about this film is mainly because of the live-action remake coming out next year in 2019. Directed by Jon Favreau and featuring the return of James Earl Jones' Mufasa, this is going to be part of Disney's recent string of live-action remakes to their animated films. While I was a bit unsure about this at first, I decided that once this remake comes out, I'm gonna welcome it with open arms and give it a shot. Even if it doesn't live up to my expectations, it won't take away my positive feelings towards the animated film, especially since I'll still have that to enjoy to my heart's content. That's something I hope every other Lion King fan does if this is the case. Even if the live-action version doesn't work, you'll still have the animated version to enjoy like there's no tomorrow. I, for one, am most certainly looking forward to what this live-action film has in store once it comes out, all while I continue my journey in the great circle of life. And with all that said and done, I'd like to thank each of you for watching this video and hope you enjoyed today's review. Until next time, guys, this is KGrove94 signing off, and wishing you a wonderful rest of the day, and Hakuna Matata.